Welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show, Monday Night Football, here on FootMexSource.com. Let's go ahead and get started. We can get some video from the producers. There I am. Hi, my name is Wiso from Mexican Soccer Show and FootMexSource.com. This is an hour-long podcast dedicated to all things Mexican football. Lots and lots and lots to talk about today. Mexico versus Senegal happened last week, 2-0. Now, Juan Carlos Osorio with 3 wins, 0 ties, 0 losses. We'll be talking about that. Also, Liga MX, the craziness of Liga MX. They got it horrendous in our pool, in our quinela that we have. Congratulations to Mr. Jason Markowitz, who won. Now has a little star by his name with Tom and I. And then also, Chivas, what is happening and happened to Chivas. We'll be talking a lot about how can we fix this team? Hopefully, Vergara, you're watching. Almeida, you're watching, because there's going to be a lot of great things going on for Chivas. And then also, El Tri Femenil just got done losing to Costa Rica, to the Ticas, in a game that I was able to watch. And we have a great guest and expert to talk about Las Chicas en Verde. So we'll go ahead and get started to see what we got on our show today. As you know him, Mexico World Cup, Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mr. Tom Marshall. Tom, Mexico, Senegal. You didn't get to attend. No, none of us from the Mexican Soccer Show attended. 2-0, second half, probably a better second than the first. But how's it going, sir?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, bit underwhelming. Just the game in general. I don't think there was too much to learn from it. But yeah, really disappointed today with the women's team. Didn't even make it out of the group, and the girls won't be at the Olympics in Rio this summer. So I think it's a big blow for the federation. I think it was obviously one of the goals was to reach the Olympics. So very disappointed. It is a disappointing blow for them.
Yes. We'll be talking more about that, especially we're supposed to have this, a great step now that Mexico has taken with the women's team, but we'll see what's going on. All right, we'll go over to Mr. Jason Markowitz, Soccer Mexicana. Jason, Cruz Azul, woo!
Yeah, I mean, I took the Quinela victory. Cruz Azul with the win this weekend. I feel like I could show my face here again, so I'm back on the show to just puff out my chest a little bit today.
Yes. All right, and then with a special guest. We'll have Pamela del Olmos, who is a friend of the show. Tom and I were talking about, let's have someone on to talk all about El Tri Femenil before the game started. And Pamela, she's from Coahuila, Mexico. She has a podcast called Women's Football Show and writes for Talacheros. Pamela?
Hi.
How's it going?
Hi. I'm doing good. Better than the Mexican women's national team, I can tell you that.
Oh man! I'm already gonna like this great discussion, guys. Well, there's the show. There is that's our lineup for today. We'll go ahead and get right to it with El Tri Femenil. How does that sound, Tom? Jason, let's go in with El Tri Femenil. Let's talk.
No, yeah. I mean, I think what I was saying before. It's just. I think that was a major blow. It's not just now either. It's not just obviously with Jalin Corral, all the talk was all that Mexico's best player is not there. But I think it's a valid point. Obviously, she's had this problem with Leo Cuellar, so them two have had this ongoing beef, and she's arguably Mexico's best player, and she's been left out, and now Mexico are out. But although I do think it is an important issue. I think this failure of the Mexican women's team now has gone back too far, and I think every pundit now these days, and everybody who even pays a bit of attention to the Mexico women's team is like, it's time for it's time for something new. It's time for fresh ideas. I mean, my personal opinion is that the former pros, the former, Monica Gonzalez has been on the show before, the former captain, the Tijuana coach, I think it's Roxborough. You've got people now who have been internationals for Mexico. They've been there, they've done it, they've won the shirt, and now I think they're in the position where they someone like of that kind of background, for me anyway, should be taking over. But I mean, Pamela, you're working in this all the time. You're following it all the time. I mean, you as a Mexico fan, as someone who follows the game, what's your opinion on where Mexican women's football is at right now after this defeat?
I mean, a couple of years ago, we were the third place behind United States and Canada. Today, we cannot say that. Costa Rica has overpassed us. We're the fourth team in our region, and it's really a struggle because it doesn't begin here. It ends here. It all began in 2014, the World Cup qualifiers. Many people didn't put attention there, but it took us to go to the third place, the third ticket, and going against Trinidad and Tobago into extra time. And then the World Cup, well, it blew in his face, that World Cup. It was supposed to be the best World Cup Mexico had. The players had the resources, had the friendlies, had everything to have a successful World Cup, and they didn't. I also think it's not only players' fault, it's the players' fault. You saw tonight's game and you didn't see the heart, you didn't see the hustle. There wasn't any urgency to get the result. And if you have to rely on a 37-year-old veteran to get you to the semifinals of a tournament, you're doing something wrong. You cannot let out Charlene Corral or Mayor or Robles. I mean, they're great players. Mexico tonight needed that player that could be different, and Mayor and Corral were those players, and Cuellar left them out.
You make an interesting point, Pamela, because we've been hearing that Mexico's taken a step, that Mexico has now the resources, like you said, that Mexico will do great things, and it's just tall talk because we're still not even close to any level of competition to be even great in the world scheme, not even in CONCACAF. As you can say, pasamos de panzazo to the World Cup in Canada in 2014 in the third place match at Trinidad and Tobago, and then we still didn't. I think it was a tie. It was historic that we were actually to get a point there at the World Cup that other CONCACAF nations also did, like Costa Rica, and then obviously not able to win a game. And then here comes the Preolímpico, where you have all these players that are supposed to be playing in the college U.S. system that have all their lives had played in games, and it was all this talk by the the federation saying we can actually make a statement with the women's. And a couple days back, Mexico almost ties the U.S. and it was a big deal. But then we saw again the problems with some of the players, and then now losing to Costa Rica. Can we just say, hey, we're not that good? Are we expecting too much? If a team has never won a World Cup game, has never won any type of competition, we're expecting way too much. Can we just say we're just like any other nation around the world that doesn't have a league, that doesn't have a professional league that out there, and our players are just kind of scattered around the world, especially in the U.S. We're just not that good.
I think we're not that good. In women's football, we're not that good. But you have to face reality. You don't have a league. You don't have someone who's really putting attention to the women's team. Every once in a while, the media comes and grabs attention because of the bad results. But we're not working. Before the World Cup, he said it was really hard to have players not being active in a team, having played week in, week out. Then Robles signs for Atlético de Madrid. Charlene signs for Levante. Veronica Perez signs for Canberra in Australia. And you have your camps, and you're not calling them up because they're not in FIFA dates. And you decided to bring people who are not being active, who doesn't have a team. So what you're saying doesn't go according to what you're trying to do. That's the main problem with Cuellar and this national team.
And I think what I want to point out is two things. Number one, the Mexican Federation has got the money. is absolutely swarming with money. The amount of money they get from playing friendlies in the US, shirt sales, all these kind of things. It's an embarrassment that they don't put more of that into the women's side of the game. That's one thing. And the second thing is you've got other nations, Latin American nations that are surpassing Mexico now. I'm talking about Colombia, Costa Rica we saw today, and it's like Mexico getting surpassed by nations that are on the same footing where, obviously issues of machismo and stuff like that has gone on, is similar to Mexico, and I think that, that's your barometer, if you're being surpassed by Costa Rica and Colombia in the women's game, it's embarrassing. You're going backwards, if you know what I mean.
And if you look at Costa Rica, they have Shirley Cruz. She plays for Paris Saint-Germain. Last season, she lost the UEFA Champions League final. They have Raquel Rodriguez, the best player in U.S. college this season. You don't have that kind of player in Mexico, and Costa Rica is so much smaller than Mexico. You can tell me that as big as Mexico is, we cannot have two types of player that can be that good.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, looking at obviously where we're at is how can we fix it? Are we really a disadvantage? Having the U.S. as being the best teams ever in women's, winning World Cups, and what they have in the college systems is usually where they take the pool of players. In Mexico, what looks like it had more foreign players than Mexican players on this, a squad. What do we need to do? Do we just have to find these players and make sure that they're playing together and in tournaments like they do, on the men's side, where they're going to all these different tournaments? Or is it just strictly having some type of league where these girls are playing on a regular basis together, or more camp? What do we need to do in looking at those other, Colombia and also Costa Rica? What's the next step for us, Paola?
In 2015, they tweeted out that Mexico was going to have a league, a professional league. And my first thought, it was, okay, if you're going to try to make it in the Mexico City, you have Pumas, you have Cruz Azul, you have America, you have teams nearby that have the money and ability to invest in a women's team. So have maybe a league of 6-7 teams that are close nearby that you can take a bus and make the travel, and have them have a league, play games, have of the season, 6 months maybe. That's what we need to have. Chivas has women's teams. I think León does too. A couple of another Liga MX does, but they don't invest on them. So we really need the owners of the Mexican team to buy into the idea of that women's football can be good for this nation.
Yeah,
and I think that's where
it seems like the time is right for something like that, because you have. I mean, there's a fair amount of outrage for what happened today. I mean, it's a good time for change, to be enacted, for a different approach to go forth from here, because it's this low point, where bigger things were expected that didn't get there. You can look forward, and possibly it's the best time that some of these changes can be made, whether it is something like forming a league like that, or looking at like the direction of calling in players and how that's done. It's the right time for reassessing.
Yeah. No, yeah, right. I want to ask Pamela what she thinks about so many Mexican American players, being called up. But first, I want to just my point on that issue is that I've got absolutely no problem with Mexican American players being selected for the men's, women.
If they, Tom, you still there? Tom's connection. I think Tom's question. If he comes back, yeah, he's got no problem. Tommy, back?
Yeah. Well, under 5 teams, whatever team, you got your passport. It doesn't matter. But at the same time, I feel like the Mexican Federation, when it comes to the women's side, are like, okay, instead of actually doing proper scouting and actually developing within Mexico, we're actually going out there and finding players and putting a league and or regionally, like Pamela said, that was a great idea. Instead of putting in the infrastructure, it's like the easy option is to go around US colleges, check out last names, check out the history of these girls, see what if they've got any Mexican roots, and then be like, all right, well, these girls are like, obviously, if you know, a lot of the time, if they can't make the US team, then they're going to want the chance to possibly play in a World Cup. And I just feel like it's the easy way out all the time. You know what I mean? Instead of doing the hard graft at the grassroots level, they're going up there to the States, and it's, I think it's an easy option.
Yeah, and I think it sounds like a good idea, but you hit it right on the head. I mean, is it an easy way out to look for those players that are playing in the university systems? Is it an easy way out to just have look for a grandparent or a parent that's on there?
But what do you think, Pamela, about that? About the Mexican Americans and them coming down?
I think you're on point. I'm gonna tell you something. Maybe you guys don't know. Half of the players that are in the Mexico squad, how they get there. Their coach, their college coach, their high school coach writes an email, a letter to Leo player and says, I have a player that you might be interested. She's Mexican, her parent is Mexican, her grandmother is Mexican. It can be good for you. And Leo decides to bring the player into camp, give it a tryout. If he likes it or not, well, that's his choice. But that's how he gets his players. He's doing more tryouts in the United States than in Mexico, and that can be possible. And I have nothing against Mexican American players. Some of my players are my favorite players of the national team or Mexican American. Aline Garcia Mendez, she's Mexican American. Her both parents were born in Mexico, and she has a great story. She has been with the squad since 2010. She's in dental school right now, but joining the team whenever she can. But you have to find more players that are born in Mexico that have the talent to be there.
Yeah. A question from the YouTube chat, there's how many of these girls that are on, if it's more than 50%, 60% off, would have gotten, if the U.S. called them, would have probably went to the U.S.?
Maybe, I think, in this roster, it was a 20-player roster. 9 were Mexican-born, 11 were Mexican-American. Mexico kept tied 7 players in 2 games. In 2 games only. You look at the roster, and besides the United States, we have the more amount of Americans in our roster.
Yeah.
And that's... I found YouTube comments, Twitter comments that it's not Mexico players, it's the Yank 7 squad playing because of the amount of players.
Yeah. Pamela, all right, so, with Cuellar now and obviously out of the Olympics, the World Cup's been a failure. For you, if you're in the federation now, you've got all the power. You've got all the power to do whatever you want with the women's national team, the full national team, the U23s, all the way down. Like, what are some of the things you do now? And starting with the head coach's position.
Okay, starting with the head coach, I leave Cuellar out. He has to go. Been since 1999 and only qualifying to 3 World Cups and an Olympic. He has to go. I would leave him in a position where he oversees something in the women's game, because if not, many people in Mexico are going to be outraged that, someone who helped pave the way for Mexico women's football is going to be out and kicking out of the door. So I would see him overseeing, tryouts or tournaments. But for me, he needs to, not only but his son. Christopher Cuellar has been head coach of 3 under-20 and under-17 teams, and he has not won a game.
Yeah,
and
that's
still
just a problem.
him duty. So they need to go. And if I'm looking for a head coach, if you're looking for someone who knows what it's all about, the Mexican politics in football, I bring Andrea Rodeval.
Yeah.
She knows the system. She has been helping FIFA. If I'm looking for someone who knows more about the international game, I would bring Randy Waldrum. He's the head coach of the Houston Dash, and he was in charge of the Trinidad and Tobago team until some stuff of the federation went wrong. So those will be my 2 options. If not, bring in Roberto Medina, who was the first head coach to qualify a Mexico team to a knockout round. Those would be my 3 top options. and then keep Monica Vergara because she's doing a great job so far with the under 15, and looking for another under 17 and under 20 coach. But the choir, they need to go.
Yeah, it's not funny really, but I mean, when you're mentioning there about Leo Cuellar's son, and he's been, it's like only in Mexico you get the impression that could happen, where you've got a coach who's not even popular. He has done certain positive things for the women's game, but he's not been absolutely amazing. And then not only does he keep his job, but he also gets to hire his son to take the youth national team. It's like, I don't know, only in Mexico could something like that.
I like the fact that there's some options. I could have named you some people that you haven't. Pamela has already named you 3, 4, 5. It looks like there are people that could take it, and I know that. Ever since I remember, I think the last, Olympics, they didn't make it the other two because they failed to qualify. I think it was Athens was the last Olympics that they were in, right?
And I can point out something real good right now. This is the first time that Mexico doesn't make it out of group stage play in Olympic qualifier of World Cup qualifier. So this is a big, big failure for Mexico in this region.
There it is. All right. Well, good to have the conversations, especially about Tri Femenil. I feel sometimes, either the federation just kind of brushes off that problem, but I wish that, more companies, more people paid attention, more of the news media paid attention, because just like in every other sport, when a Mexican is in it, you see a huge coverage, if they do well. If it's karate, if it's la caminata in the 80s, if it's diving in the 90s, you have skiing, which the guy didn't even come in 20th for Prince, whatever, from the Netherlands or something. I just can't believe that the marketing hasn't gone around it, and it's in there. So hopefully, that changes and we can hear more of it. But I want to thank Pamela. Thank you so much for joining. You bring not only ideas but actual knowledge that a lot of people don't have, and hopefully we can have you on more often and talk about not only El Tri Femenil but all of Liga MX for there in Coahuila. So we want to thank you for joining.
Thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure to talk about the women's game.
There it is. All right.
Absolutely amazing English as well. It's got to be said.
I don't know.
Thanks.
It's like outstaging us. All right. Thank you, Pamela. We'll see you later. All right. Well, there it is. A little bit of the women's game. We found Tom kind of sent me a message to let's try to find some people that we can talk about it, because we can really see. She's very passionate. Man, I mean,
Tom was brilliant. I mean,
she was ready to hopefully Cuellar wasn't on here because he was ready to take some people's heads off.
I think everybody involved in the women's game in Mexico, or even the ex-players and stuff like that, that is how everybody feels right now. And we'll see. It's going to be an interesting few days. Definitely.
Yeah, see what happens. We're at that. All right, guys. Well, I know we spent a lot of time on the women's, but I thought it was something that we needed to talk about, something we don't necessarily give so much attention to, and this is a great point to look at. So thank you all for your part and participation on the chat. All of you guys that are on. Our friend Ivan, Joel, David, Copland, Guelito from Pancho Villa's Army, all on right now. So we'll go ahead and get into the guys and talk a little bit about Mexico playing Senegal. A game where, looked like the first half wasn't very much. I mean, these players were only together for 3 days. A younger squad. I think, we're looking at the squad, Palmera Rivas, Candido, but I like the fact that we were able to, obviously get that W, but then we saw the youngsters. We saw the Pachuca show, Chucky Lozano. We saw, Dueñas, Pizarro, all having great games. So, Tom, your overall, feel of the game. It's been almost a week, and how you felt, especially with Juan Carlos Osorio's picking of the team and just overall reaction.
Yeah, I mean, underwhelming. It's one of those games where it's really a no-win. It really was. I thought it was a no-win. It was like, it's difficult to, even if you win 5-0, then everybody's like, oh, the opposition was rubbish. I mean, I think the average age of the Senegal team was like 22, and it's like, a lot of them were 20, the starters, 20 years old. So it's like, so obviously you pick out Lozano, and obviously Pizarro did well, and with this goal, and it's like, you can come up with some positive points. But I think a lot of the Senegal players wouldn't get in the Liga MX side. I don't think, I think there was a few good players and they were well organised. But I mean, the quality that you're playing isn't that good. I think these players the Mexicans players are playing against better players week in, week out. So I think that's how you judge it. It's difficult. On the negative side, obviously, I thought the centre backs, Yasser Corona and Araujo, struggled playing out the back. I think Mexico in general, the slight worry was that with that Senegal team that was very compact and very deep, they hit them on the break and Mexico struggled. I mean, that goes back to Chepo's days. So that's always a worry. But yeah, I mean, in general, it was an occasion for Osorio to look at the players, to speak to them, and to basically fill out his squad, because I think that come March and the Canada games, that very few of these are going to be actually in there.
Yeah, I mean, I even saw even the looked like the pitch was small. It was in a baseball stadium. 19,000 people were there. I think that's probably the lowest turnout for a Mexico game in a very, very long time. I started watching it towards the beginning of the kind of almost in the middle of the first half. Having something else to do, and then actually watch the second half. Two different halves. Juan Carlos Osorio, obviously choosing the players, and his subs all making an impact. The two goals came from almost the carbon copy play, from the wing into a centro in the way they came in. But Jason, to you, what stood out in the game for you, especially with the young guys? People were talking about Nayib Moran kept saying the Tuso show is going to show up, but the positives for you.
Obviously, Lozano was the big story. I mean, his play throughout the game was amazing, and I mean, it's what we expected. But first cap, having a game like that was really impressive for him. There wasn't too much to take from that first half otherwise. I mean, it was just Lozano's stellar play.
Chuy Corona, your guy?
Obviously, my man Jose de Jesus Corona stepping up and reminding everyone who he is. And obviously, don't forget about him. But I mean, for me, I'm gonna say we can pull apart the guys that didn't play very well. But I mean, I don't know. Did you expect Nestor Araujo to come in and perform this amazing job in center back? I didn't. Jerry Flores coming in, what did we expect from him? I mean, he just played like he plays with Toluca. I mean, Cruz Azul let him go for a reason. He's just not really national team quality, and that's okay. But the things that for me, what really stuck out and what I was most happy about was the play of Rodolfo Pizarro. Someone for me, I think he's overshadowed by Lozano in his stellar play in some ways, and it's justified because Lozano should be overshadowing people with how his play. But Rodolfo Pizarro, I think, is just a great player, so much potential. But even more than the potential, I think for a while he's been at such a high level where he really could be slotted right into that senior national team and be ready to play with the big boys, with the Europeos. He'll be going to the Olympics this summer, but Pizarro, I think, just getting that goal and just performing on that big stage was great for him. So I think he could, get a little more of the attention, a little more of the shine his way. So I was happy for him. And I think that was, for me, the thing that really stuck out the most.
Candido, Tom, we were criticizing he didn't get to start. He for his own team. How many minutes did he really have? 2 minutes in, and great pass, and was able to take it to Dueñas.
No, he's been up and down, Candido Ramirez. I mean, when he burst onto the scene and you thought, I think it was with the under-20s where you were like, or was it under-17s where you were like, this is a real player, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden he moves on from Santos for I don't know why, to Pumas, and then from Pumas he moves on to Monterrey. And you're like, what's going on with this player now? He's 22, but he's had 3 clubs. And then this season with Monterrey, he's not really been playing even. But I mean, I think that's where we're seeing Osorio's influence. Mm-hmm. He's seen something in that player that he really likes, and I think it's just complete sheer speed and the fact he can cross a ball. I think Osorio really likes that rawness. I mean, we've seen with Jürgen Damm. I mean, Osorio seems to really like Jürgen Damm, and I just think it's that speed. And there's not that many Mexican players that have that just absolutely rapid burst of pace. So yeah, he's obviously brought him in, and that's what this game was about. And I think Osorio would have said to Ramirez, like, you've shown what you can do. We know what you can do. Now go back to your club, win a place in the team, and we'll talk about whether you're going to be in the squad when the big boys are in town.
Yeah, and to you guys, looking at this game, are we already seeing Juan Carlos Osorio's hand to you? In the team, the subs coming in. It looks like we're playing through the wings a little bit more. The central looking for that either long ball or working through those wings, have to have that fast wings. But Tom and Jason, I mean, is this still? I mean, we can finally see the JCO's kind of shaping El Tri. And then another question is, did that really help us out for Canada?
Well, I mean, I think it's dangerous to take too much look at what happened in this game and really apply it to anything, honestly. I mean, it's a hodgepodge game with a hodgepodge bunch of players. I mean, I think it's individual performances. When the squad will just completely differently. So, I mean, I think my assumption is that this is a manager that will adapt based on his players a bit more than just come in with this definite all-the-time kind of system. I mean, that's the early impression I get from him. I think like Tom mentioned, bringing Godinho, looking at the speed, like perhaps it is something like that where he's looking at specific qualities and going to fit a roster to meet different qualities that he wants. But to me, I don't know. I saw a match of just a hodgepodge of guys out there. So I don't know. Moving on, I think.
Yeah, no, I think in that game it's difficult. I mean, I think we definitely did against El Salvador and Honduras because we saw two very different formations. We saw different styles of play in those games between them, contrasting those two games, you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, obviously against El Salvador it was very much like we're absolutely going to pile players forward. I mean, if that was the difference between that game and, say, Chepo era game, where Chepo, even though the other team was completely sat back, wouldn't risk everything, you know what I mean? And I think Osorio was very much like, the wingers were kind of right on the fullbacks, if you know what I mean. But yeah, with the Senegal game, it's it's difficult. I mean, maybe you can stress that 4-3-3. We saw a definite 4-3-3 for the game. I think that's his preferred formation. But aside from that, I don't know. It's difficult. I mean, what are you going to learn about Chapo Montes that you don't already know and that you don't see for Leon? What are you going to learn about Chuy Corona?
Can
really?
Make it through a full game without getting injured?
Yeah. Well, we got the answer to that at least. No.
3. That's what. Anyways, get back.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and I think that really, obviously, you got the Canada games coming up. Are they going to be wildly exciting? Probably not. But I mean, I think the big draw, and for me, the summer, the Copa America is going to be amazing. I absolutely can't wait. And like I said, I think last week, I think Mexico got a really good shot. I think they've got a lot of players in, at the peak, in form over there in Europe, and I see no reason. It depends slightly on the draw coming up on Sunday in New York, but I think that's the real focus of this year for Mexico. I think I'm really excited about Mexico getting a chance to play the first team against South America's best.
Well, the draw will come out Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. or 7 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Eastern, so 5 p.m. Pacific. And it'll be interesting to see where what teams we're playing because it looks like there should be some pretty good games. The heads, Mexico, the U.S., Brazil, Argentina. Right? There's 4 groups.
Not 100% sure, to be honest.
4. Well, I know that there's going to be some great games if Colombia and Ecuador, where they're going to go, Venezuela, as suppose as that are going to be there. So I think
there's plenty of good teams down there.
Plenty of good teams. I'm sure Mexico's going to have a tough game, and it's not a Copa Oro type of game where you kind of cruise by the first round. So we'll see where it's at. And
against 7 Cuban players.
Yeah, against 7 Cuban players. There's a few others left. But it should be very exciting. And then obviously how Juan Carlos Osorio handles this with another tournament, with the Olympics that are coming right afterwards. There's some players that are already saying are going to play. I want to play both tournaments. And that's something that I saw. I really think there are going to be players that are going to play both tournaments that Juan Carlos is going to say, hey, I need you at both places. And are willing to do it, like Alayun, who was recently quoted saying that, you know what, I kind of want to play both. Already Talavera saying that wants to play in the Preolímpico. You know, Memo Ochoa's name is still out there. So it'll be interesting to see where if they're allowed to do it, and then, you know, it will be. But kind of it's kind of getting, you know, kind of getting to that time to see, you know, are we gonna do a Copa America the right way with, you know, not being the under 23, not having that, because the last two were not the greatest. It wasn't a success at all, taking a younger squad and some of the players. So that's definitely out there and what we're looking for. Expect to see Mexico, you know, obviously playing on this great all the great stadiums and being packed and however it is, just like you know in the U.S. But that's pretty much all on Mexico. We'll be switching it over to Copa Libertadores that starts this week. And we haven't talked a lot about that. It's a good thing we have Mr. Jason Markowitz to tell us all about. For all those of you guys know, Copa Libertadores, obviously the tournament, probably the best tournament in the whole in all of the Americas with the clubs. The passion that goes on, and obviously the referees, the biased referees that we like to always get mad at. But Jason, let's start from scratch. What's going on with the Libertadores? Do we have teams that can actually make a difference in this Libertadores? Can we really, you know, make a splash like we've done before in past years, where, you know, a Cruz Azul, a Chivas, or, you know, the Maracanazos that we've seen with them before? Is any of that going to be like it, or just expect another León-esque type of Libertadores? Where
Can I go first?
Go ahead,
Can I
Tom.
go first? No.
No? Okay. That's it.
Well,
Tom gets it straight.
only two teams. Only two teams, unfortunately.
Why only two teams?
Puebla didn't make it in. I mean, they had their playing game there against Racing, and they well, I mean, the home match, the first leg in Puebla, they outplayed them. They really, I don't know, I felt like they had a better game, but they ended up with the draw. They go to the second leg in Argentina, and they just couldn't get it done. They played pretty well. I mean, considering, I mean, we're talking about Puebla here, who, you know, a year or two ago saying that they're competing for this spot would be ridiculous. But they played like they belonged in the game. I really thought they had a lot of quality, and, you know, I like how they're playing currently in the league. But they were just outmatched when they went to Argentina. Needing the win there, it wasn't going to happen. So, I mean, we're left with two teams. We're left with Pumas and Toluca, and who currently, looking at their current form, that's a troubling scenario. You would think, based on the way they were playing last season, that would be something. Two teams with enough quality to possibly make a run, but current form is troubling. Although looking at, you know, the groups that Pumas and Toluca have fallen into, you know, I think, you know, with some luck, with some quality play from this team kind of coming around by the time they really get deep into the group stage, I think, I mean, I wouldn't put it past either making out of the group stage, but I don't know. These aren't teams that you're getting really excited for, that you think you can make the long run into doing something really significant in this tournament. I don't think.
Usually it's like these type of teams that surprise you.
Hopefully.
Right?
Hopefully.
It feels like whenever we don't have a team where you're like, oh, you know, we don't have a, you know, Tigres or, you know, a good team, America, or a team that obviously has a long history of, you know, with Liga MX, maybe a Cruz Azul or something like that. It just, I feel like this is where we just don't look at the teams, and then bam, they start winning, and what's going on, and the emphasis goes to it. So who knows what can happen.
But I think we saw with someone like Tijuana when they did well. They like, you know, they absolutely concentrated on it, and you know, Toluca and Pumas, like I don't know if they've got the will. I think the focus for those two teams as institutions. I think the centennial of Toluca's coming up, and you know, Pumas, I think they want to win the Liga MX title, and I feel like you have to sacrifice in the league if you're going to do well in the Libertadores. I just think it's virtually impossible to do both. You look at Toluca's group, you've got the Brazilian team, Ecuadorian, and Argentine. It's difficult, you know what I mean? With the trips, with everything involved, it's difficult, and Toluca aren't doing particularly well in the league. I mean, you know, I think after 6 games, if they had been on 15 points or something, then it's a different story. But they're not. And then Pumas, Emelec, Olimpia, Deportivo Táchira, it's not the most difficult group, but I don't know. I'm just not sure if either of these two Mexican teams are ready. I'm not excited. I want to see an America or Tigres in the Libertadores, and I don't know. It's difficult to get excited about the Mexican team's chances for me anyway this time around.
I feel like it's going to be a surprise.
It could be. I mean, I think it was.
They could play well. They could play well if they do. If they do, Toluca and the Pumas could play well. We've seen them. It's not like a Querétaro's out there, or not that they're not playing well, but something like that, or like a Chiapas or Atlas or a Veracruz. You know what I mean?
Like, it wouldn't be shocking if these teams do something, and because they have enough quality to compete. But the deck is stacked against Mexican teams going to South America for all these group games midweek with a tough and demanding league on the weekend. I mean, it's just the deck is stacked against them. So I mean, they're going to have to really up their games and really pull off something special to really make a deep run in this tournament, because they aren't one of the real power. These aren't the power teams at the moment. They're good teams, but they're just not the real power teams who could compete on like the best level, I don't think.
But we can never have those power teams competing in Libertadores.
Doesn't seem like it.
Right. I mean, we're already failing at bringing our best team. I mean, I guess last year was it with Tigres and what was happening. But all right. Anything else on Libertadores? Any other big weeks? I know Conca Champions starts also next week, right, Tom?
Yeah. No, that's going to be 4 quarterfinals, 4 Liga MX teams against 4 MLS teams, and that's the one Tigres in America in. So expecting them to do pretty well, but. Galaxy in there, Real Salt Lake, some of the bigger MLS teams as well. So I think next Monday a bit of a CONCACAF Champions League special.
Yeah, can't wait. It'll be fun. It looks like every year the hype is a little bit stronger. Where the U.S. team, MLS teams are trying to assemble those players, and it makes it for good TV. Don't know how about competition, but especially last year with America and Matosas going all the way to Canada to get the win. It's definitely for some drama and what's going on. But all right, well, that kind of covers all our Mexico national team, everything international. Let's focus on Liga MX, where we have our champion for this weekend in our Quinela, Jason Markowitz, was able to.
That's right.
Was it 6 points? 6 out of the.
5 of 8, but
5 of 8. Very good. Tom, I think we got 3 and.
3. Yeah.
Cesar got 4. I mean, it was just it was hilarious because I was really sure. I was like, all right, these games are, I think, how it is. But that's Liga MX for you.
Yeah, it's difficult. I feel like if you win one goal of the final result, and I think if you look at all the Liga MX games this weekend, there's only one game that was decided by more than one goal all weekend. And that was Pachuca. And that was, Pachuca Puebla, and Puebla were 2-1 up in the 80th.
Exactly. 14 minutes, 4 goals, and we can see that. So. Let's go right into it. Liga MX, Monterrey, the leader, another leader change. Pachuca, León, Club América, and Tigres on the round up the top 5, which is safe to say, Tigres, taking that first 3 weeks just kind of like, we're not there yet. And then obviously, Gignac just amazing again, another golazo what he had. I think, a Club América that. It's doing what he needs to do. Kind of, we're not hearing the Nacho, get fired. They're on the top 5. They're doing, they're playing well. It looks like it's happening. León, who has struggled in the last 2 weeks, but found a win against Chivas, which, although Chivas is doing, horrendous at the moment, it looked like Usatena already trying to do something positive with the team. And then Pachuca, again, no surprise that they're able to score so many goals. And Monterrey doing things right, has won all of their games. Has won most of their games except for one, and is at the leaderboard. But that's the roundup of the top. The roundup at the bottom, as we still continue to see who will win a game first, Veracruz, Chivas, or Dorados. The question still stands on who will win a game. It looked like none of them, I would think, has a chance yet, especially Dorados. Dorados, a team that is still just, making sure that Chivas is staying in the game because they're not able to win the game. But let's go right into it. And why I have both of you on here, let's talk about Chivas. For those of you that are watching, it's gonna get fun because we're gonna try to rip apart what's going on and really find some kind of a solution in what's going on. And a lot of talk, especially on Twitter. I know Tom and I were going back and forth on this game. Even though as a León fan, Chivas not winning, I always felt that it's bad for overall in the national team somehow. Having a good Chivas and having a team full of Mexicans in the national, in Liga MX is good for the league. And I say that without being a Chivas fan, but seeing what's happening, where Bergara being quoted saying, I will restructure the team before Almeida leaves, was, I don't know how much that gives the confidence to the players. Faulting the players. A lot of people are it's not just about the coach. It looks like he's not going anywhere. But I asked this question to you, Tom, and I wanted to discuss with you this notion of Mexican players only in Chivas, and ultimately it hurts the team to be competitive, to be that team. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's more difficult, no doubt about it.
That hurts it more difficult, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely more difficult to put together a team that's going to win the title because obviously your options are limited when it comes to building a team. You can look within the Mexican League, second division, Fuerzas Básicas from Chivas, but also other clubs, and that's it. Whereas a Cruz Azul, for example, could have 5 players they're looking at to fill one position. And if the Mexican's too expensive, then they'll go for the guy in Ecuador. If that guy is not available, they've got Colombia. Then number 4 is a Mexican, and you know what I mean. They've got it's just far easier to build a team.
And it comes from the notion that obviously it has worked in the past in getting that Chivas, the Mexican player, the best of the best to play for Chivas. So if we're looking at that Chepo team, it used to be that all the players used to come from the canteras, used to come from the youth system. But even that Chepo team that won, Bofo Bautista, I think, was from Tecos. We're looking at, it wasn't a cantera type of team that won. That we haven't seen that Chivas team win in a very long time with the cantera. They do produce amazing players that get taken by other teams or get sold off. But in order for Chivas to have the best Mexican players, when we feel like that Mexican player is at his best, they're not going to go to Chivas. They're going to go to a team that's going to give them a lot more money, or they're going to go to Europe. And point being, Chicharito, where it was only towards the end of the season and automatically, Vergara was able to sell him and make a profit for it. But it just feels like we're not finding that talent. When was the last time we had a great player at Chivas?
No, I disagree, though. I think that, I don't know, I get your point, definitely. I think a few years back we saw a Chivas team that had a lot of young players in just a couple of years ago. And I think over the last couple of years now, Vergara's actually spent money. And I mean, I look at that Chivas team right now, and I've seen players that have been successful on other teams. A number of them, or with youth national teams, or the national team. And I'm seeing now that there's something else going on at Chivas. I don't think it's the quality's not there. There's something, they're not playing together, and I think it's a recurring theme. Chivas are bringing players in, and they're not performing. Players aren't living up to the potential. I just don't think the environment is conducive to a player fulfilling his potential at Chivas. I don't think the atmosphere is right there, and it keeps happening. Brizuela, nothing like the player he was at Atlas or Toluca. Absolutely nothing like. And then you look at Gullit Peña on Sunday against León, and it's like, what happened to him? I think there was a stat he had 12 touches in the first half, taken off at half time. It's like, what's going on there? Carlos Salcedo burst onto the scene last year, and then this season he just can't do it. I mean, what is happening at Chivas? It's a really difficult one to explain, but it's like these players, the pressure that's on them because they play for Chivas, and I think it's put on by the owner. Because the owner's talking to the media today about how terrible Gullit Peña was and that he signed him for all this money and he's just not performing. It's like he's treating him like a machine, and players aren't machines. You can't just be like, hey, I bought you for loads of money and you're not playing well. Why not? Football players are humans. They go through ups and downs and emotions, and you can't treat people in that way.
I think that's exactly it. I mean, I think it comes right back to the fact that after a downturn in games, we're talking about the crisis in Chivas again. And it's like trying to fix it constantly. Like, what's the next step? What do we need to do to fix this? What players are playing terrible? Let's get them out of there. Let's fire the coach. Bring in somebody else. I mean, that constant cycle. I mean, it's just continues to undermine this team. I mean, you have players who are constantly unsettled. They don't know if the manager's going to be there next week. They don't know if they're going to be out of the lineup and someone else is going to be in. I mean, there's just no consistency. And I understand, like, in general, you don't have that in Mexico, but what a lot of these other teams don't have is the pressure that Chivas has. I mean, you could feel it. I mean, like, watching it through the television in that Chivas-León game this weekend, you could feel the pressure in that stadium for Chivas to find the goal and to get a result in that game. And it's just, I mean, it's kind of eating themselves apart, basically. I think more than anything, what they need is just some consistency. Whether Almeida just is given time to work this out, whether those players are given the confidence that they're going to be in this lineup, the manager's going to be there, and they're going to work it out, because they do have the quality players. There's some of them aren't performing at the moment, but they have enough quality to play well in Liga MX, and it just comes down to kind of working as a cohesive unit, figuring out the right tactics, and give the manager and the players time to sort that out. I mean, we could talk about the pressure of relegation, the pressure that Chivas has to win, but I mean, look at the long play, and I know that's not going to happen with the man who's in charge of Chivas. But I mean, above all, this is what needs to happen. Build up, as Tom said, like, build up Golapena. You brought him in. This was the guy you targeted. Yes, he hasn't played well, but you brought him in. Build him up. Like, give him confidence that he's going to be there.
Also, someone like Gullit Peña, obviously, even I wrote, this is a good signing for Chivas, and on paper it is, but it's not someone. If you speak to people who are at the World Cup and covering it, and people who know about Gullit and mentally where he's at, the impression you get is he's not the strongest mentally. You know what I mean? He's not a player that is going to be. I mean, look what happened just before the World Cup. He like 6 months before the World Cup, he was like the player who was going to be absolutely crucial. And then it got to the World Cup, and it's like, there's no way he's playing. There was no way after he was going to get a starting place in the World Cup, considering his form leading up to it. Like, and obviously I think the pressure has really got to him. But then, like, Angel Reyna, what was that as a signing? Really? I mean, everybody knows he falls out with people. He's a bit crazy. I mean, there's a reason he's gone through so many teams, and it's not just because he's wants to experience new places. It's like he doesn't get on with people. And what's happened at Chivas? They're still paying a huge salary for Angel Reyna, but I don't know. It's difficult at Chivas, and it's actually been interesting on my Twitter recently, because even some Chivas fans are talking about what you mentioned, Wiesel, like, oh, let's just get some foreigners in. And I mean, I'm completely against that, because I love what Chivas stand for as an all-Mexican club. I really do. I love the policy. I think it gives them a great identity, but it's
set up
not
for failure, Tom.
No, I don't. I mean, I think you can produce a good team with Mexican players, and I honestly think that if Chivas can win the league ever again with all Mexicans, then it'll be absolutely massive. But yeah, I know what you're saying though, and I think it's especially the point these days, because I think the Liga MX is better than it's possibly ever been.
Yeah.
You look at the quality of goals and players. Just last weekend we saw Giannini, unbelievable. For me, he could go to a good European club tomorrow. I'm not saying he's Ronaldo, but he's a very good player. Then you saw Cardona, unbelievable overhead kick. He can play in a top European team right now. Gignac's goal. I mean, Sam Wessa's goal. I mean, there's a lot of quality in the Liga MX, and I think especially Chivas are suffering because of that as well. But they shouldn't be 6 games into this tournament with that team and not have won a game. They're not, they've got a team that can compete in this league. Although, obviously I don't think it's in the top 8.
But, I mean, you look at Chivas right now. I mean, for me, I went back and watched that game this morning again, and I mean, for me, they played fairly well. I mean, they played good enough to get at least a result. I mean, the simple fact is they just can't score. They don't have the people up front to score. They just really never put a real threat for León, but I mean, they defended well. I mean, they played an overall decent game. I mean, they just never had that final third to get it done, and I think that's just above anything else, I think that's a symptom of their roster at the moment and their lack of real proven goal scorers. I think, I mean, we could go back and look at that gullet move, and getting rid of Fierro was probably not the wisest decision this summer.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's just a real missing line. Bravo's not performing at the moment. He's not really getting the right play through the midfield. But, I mean, again, it's overall in the grand scheme, it is 6 games. I mean, and they are in these games. They were in that game. It wasn't always pretty, but they could have got a result in that game, and they were almost there. They're not playing where Chivas fans want them to be. Obviously, it's not great watching them play at the moment, but they're not a disaster. They're just not.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and I think this is where, because of Dorados, this is where Chivas just needs to keep going. You know, this is where Almeida should keep going. Find that unity. Find a way to get the fans back in and really pull forward, because you have the luckiest. You know, you have Dorados is not going to win, and you have the chance to do that. If this would have been Chepo, if you're looking at it, I think Chepo already got fired if they would have had the same record. Chepo won some games. And Almeida, you know, from what he's saying, it looks like they're sticking to it. They need to just find a way to get out of this funk. They need and pull something together. One win, you know, coming up in one of the games, and just taking a step at a time, because they can afford, at least, you know, knowing that Dorados is going to go away, and then find a way to get into to get some games going and something happening, and maybe you'll see a hero arise from that. But firing a coach is not gonna work unless you start from a cleaning house from the top, where Vergara sells the team, or which I feel like it's not gonna happen anytime soon. So
yeah, I mean, Vergara was speaking on Football Picante today, and he's coming out with all these things about Gullit's playing bad. We're going to stick with Almeida because we're playing really well. I slightly disagree with Jason on, you know, Chivas doing okay on Sunday. I mean, I know they could have got a result because there's only 1 goal in it, and Leon went absolutely amazing. But me, watching that game, I was like, Leon have got a game plan here. And I just felt it after like an hour. I'm like, this game, and I think I tweeted it as well. I was like, this game is absolutely perfectly how Leon wanted it to go.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely perfectly. You can feel the crowd get restless. I don't think Chivas really created any chances in the whole game. And I think that's the worrying thing now for Chivas with Almeida, is that things are getting gradually worse. I mean, I think earlier this season Chivas were very unlucky not to get wins. But I think that game on Sunday was like, you could just see that there was so little confidence in the Chivas players. They were struggling. And you look at the team now and you're like, how are the players? It's like, what? Raul Lopez has had an okay season. You know, Obilin Pineda has settled in quite well. And then you look at the other players and you're like, is there any other player who's like, you know, 7 out of 10 or 6 out of 10? And probably not. But I think this is the thing. Last April there was a headline on ESPN Mexico, and it said, can't remember it exactly, but it's like it was like Chepo saying, you know, we can't get overconfident now that we're super leader. 10 months ago, Chivas were top of the league, you know, and 4 months later or whatever, in September, Chepo was fired for a bit of a bad run games. So now, you know, Vergara has to decide. Now this has happened again. What's he going to do? For me, I'd like Chepo in charge of Chivas, and I know a lot of fans wouldn't agree with me, because obviously here in Guadalajara, I know fans weren't massive fans of his style of play, but if you look at Chivas and what they're about and how they do things, Chepo's come through the club. He knows the club. Nestor de la Torre has come through the club. They know how to get deals. They know how to work with the youngsters. They know how to impose some discipline. And Almeida's come in, and yeah, he plays really good attacking football, blah, blah, blah. But really, was it that good on Sunday? I mean, was that like really exciting football? Like,
I think it was not bad.
Is it that exciting to lose? Is it that exciting to win none out of 3? I mean, I don't think so. You know what I mean? I think Chepo would have sorted this team out. I don't really have much doubt about that, because his record in the Liga MX is very good, and I know not everybody is a big fan, but I think that Vergara made a big mistake when he got rid of Nestor and Chepo de la Torre, and in that pretty disgraceful way that he did it as well, where Almeida was actually in Guadalajara and Chepo was traded to Chivas. I mean, I think for somebody who's won a title with Chivas and played, and whole families played going back generations. I thought it was disgraceful how they treated the Los Torre.
Looking at Chivas, I had the schedules. Chiapas, who's not doing. It's not the same Chiapas from last season. Who La Volpe has had some problems there. Only scoring 4 goals the whole season so far. There could be, at least Chivas has more goals. I think 6 or 7 in the season already. So, and then after that, I think Querétaro, and then bam, here comes the Clásico. So if you don't get wins, and at least the next 2 games, especially this game coming up, a Chiapas game, and then maybe a Querétaro. I know Querétaro isn't doing great, but it's not like a horrible team. Here comes the Clásico. And it looks like I can see momentum totally build towards that Clásico and having a good, as horrible as Chivas can play. We've seen it, when it comes Clásico, it's a different type of game. But then after that, I mean, Monterrey, Pumas, so it doesn't get any easier for Chivas. So I think this is the span of let's try to do something, the Chivas fans are saying and what's happening and it's coming up.
You just any experiment where you insert as much pressure as possible and instability at the same time, and you expect them to perform. You expect those players on the field to perform to the best. It's not going to work out.
Well, we'll see what happens with Chivas and the demise and this. What's happening. All right, Liga MX, I know we're going a little long, but anything else, any other talking points? The Monterrey obviously looks like Pumas. Can we really say that Pumas is back when they beat a Dorados team, or do they still have a little depth for to see that Pumas from last season?
No, Pumas are okay.
Yeah,
they're a pretty good team. I mean they've won 2, drawn 2, and lost 2 out of 6. So they've not been that bad. It's like they're 1 point off the playoffs. So at this stage of the season, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I know that the press in Mexico is always like, I think a week ago, Pumas in crisis. It's like, what? You just reached the final? That was actually a headline. Pumas está en crisis? ? Like, but I don't know. I think from the last weekend, I really enjoyed Monterrey against Santos Laguna.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was quality. I thought there was a lot of quality in that game in terms of the goals were brilliant, and I don't know, Santos, obviously Monterrey player for player were better than Santos, but Santos were quite well organised. Monterrey obviously took the 2-goal lead, but Santos came back. I just thought you saw 2 teams like a real team, the real teams with a game plan. That they go at each other, they know how to defend, they know when to attack, they're solid. I don't know, I just like the organisation and you can see both teams do have a firm idea about how they want to go about playing and winning games.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, also Cesar Montes. I mean, what a player. 18 years old. I mean, I know we've been talking in this show and we've talked a lot about Pizarro, Lozano, and who else? Who's the other one? Gutierrez from Pachuca, but Cesar Montes, man, 18 years old. I don't know. I don't know. It's still early, but the fact he's playing every week for Monterrey is unbelievable, and just the way he's built, the way he can physically mix it in the air as comfortably as when he's got the ball at his feet is, I don't know. He's just got a lot of raw materials, that guy, and I imagine European players are going to be absolutely all over him. Because he's built like a Premier League centre back.
And look at that, and that's what I like about, like you said, the Liga MX, the competition is getting. We're seeing these younger players really excel in Liga MX, and I think that's also part of this great time here with Liga MX. But we're there, Jason. It wouldn't be fair if we didn't have you on to talk about your Cruz Azul. Right off the bat, without Vucetich mistakes, without Querétaro giving some mistakes, you think you would have won that game?
That's dangerous territory for me there, but I don't know. I mean, Cruz Azul, I feel like they were the better team throughout the 90 minutes. They were certainly holding on at the end there for dear life, but that's kind of what they do. I don't know. I think they had enough chances that... certainly like the sheer volume of Conejo Benitez just shanks and misses, and opportunities that they created, I think they could have had a few more goals in that first half. So I think they played well enough to get the win. I mean, against a struggling Querétaro, I don't think that's saying a ton at the moment, but we'll see how it progresses from there. I have a question for you guys. Do you think, I mean, right now I'm looking at, I mean, if I was to pick the two favorites for the title at this point, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that they are both from the city of Monterrey. Do you agree with that?
Yep.
I think one of them.
Just one? Who's your number two if it's not Tigres?
Yeah, it's got to be Tigres Monterrey.
Now, even though Tigres lost, I mean, that was actually a big win for Piojo Herrera. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that it could be a bit of a turning point. It started off okay with Tijuana, but that win, that is a massive win in Tigres. I know that, you know, Tigres played most of the game with 10 men, and, like, you know, Tigres still dominated most of the game, but that's a big result to get over there. So, you know, it's real positive.
It's a good weekend for Atlas too, right? I mean, I'm coming off of previous weekend, the drubbing from Puebla. Going to Toluca and getting a point is never an easy thing. So, I mean, I think they played pretty well in that match too. So, impressed. Maybe the start of a bit of a turnaround, because I think they played pretty well. Okay, considering where they're coming from. It's a good weekend for them.
It just makes me laugh because after the first week when they beat Querétaro like 3-1 or something, all the Atlas fans in Guadalajara here were like, "Oh yeah, we've got this team. Rafa's
That's
back."
it.
Like,
You got it.
A few weeks later, they're losing to 4-1 to a Puebla B team, and it's like Atlas are just like a bloody roller coaster. You can't ever predict. I just don't predict Atlas teams.
That's it. Jason, back to your question. I think it's going to be a Monterrey team and a Pachuca, if I had to pick.
I like watching Pachuca, but I don't see them making a deep run in the Liguilla just because of that defense that I don't trust. I think they just give up too many goals. I would take a few more teams before I'd take Pachuca. I'd say that. It wouldn't surprise me because they have the quality and they could score boatloads of goals, but
I didn't want to say it, but I still feel like Leon will make surprise with Boselli now coming in strong, having good defense.
I think you got Monterrey, Pachuca, Leon, America, and Tigres. And
which are the top five?
Yeah, Santos.
Look how that works out.
I think Pumas got the Libertadores.
No, that's no problem with Liga MX. You can say right now, we should record this, because at the beginning of the season, oh man, you know, Pumas got to be there again.
Yeah.
Or
Toluca, Libertadores as well, and then the rest of them, I don't know, I just think those teams have just got a bit more than the rest.
I don't think you could completely rule out Puebla either. Like, I could see them really making a serious run.
Everyone can make it.
No, but I mean, like, they have the organization. They're playing really well. They're really well organized. They can frustrate a lot of teams. They're the type of team that could get in there and really keep the game's low scoring. Alcisa could score some crazy goals. I could see them making a deep run.
They're the Leicester of the Mexican League.
If you will.
Hobby Bermudez is body.
That does it for us at the Mexican Soccer Show. I already went a little bit over in these great Monday Night Football podcast / video here. Thank you to everyone on the chat. Thank you to Joel, Mr. John Jago, great friend of mine. Ivan, who is live tweeting. If you haven't followed him, is AfroZander on Twitter. Thank you to all of you. Please subscribe to our YouTube. Looking to increase the subscriptions. Help us out also on Facebook and on Twitter. You can find Mr. Mexico World Cup on ESPN FC. Does great videos in Guadalajara games. You can find Jason Markowitz on Soccer Mexicana. Great blog. Sometimes does some stuff for FootMex Source also. And you can find me on Twitter or pretty much just on Twitter. That's if you're in the Phoenix area. There at ESPN Deportes Radio. Anytime La Selección juega. So we'll be coming up to you and probably Thursday to talk a little bit more about what's going on in the Europeos. Maybe bring in some experts with Libertadores, see how that goes. And Conca Champions that starts next week. So lots and lots to talk about in the next weeks. Thank you so much for listening to us and following us. And thank you for spending another hour here at the Mexican Soccer Show with us on this edition, Mexican Football. Talk to you guys all next week. Same bat channel, same bat time. All right, I like that. So I'm gonna just say goodbye like that. All right, so talk to you guys later. La próxima.